In this video, I'm testing out a new method to cook ribs that will make them juicier, tastier, and easier to perfect, so let's get smoking. In the past few years, I've done a lot of experimentation with finishing brisket at lower temperatures, around 190 degrees internal, and holding it at 150 degrees Fahrenheit for anywhere from 10 to 20 hours. What I found is it's a great way to preserve the taste and juiciness of the beef, avoid pot roasty bland flavors, while also allowing sufficient time for the collagen and fat to render so it's super tender. So it got me thinking, why don't I just use the same method for other types of meat? Like brisket, pork ribs have a ton of interconnective collagen and fat that needs to be broken down. But if it's taken too high in temperature, like 200 plus, it often tastes kind of dry and bland. You just don't notice it as much on ribs because there's a ton more sauce and rub per square inch of rib than on something like brisket or pork butt, where that sauce and the rub is just on the very outside of the meat. So I tested the method out a few times last year, and my family and friends went crazy over it. In fact, it was so good it even got me a call at a barbecue competition, and it was maybe only the second time I'd used the method. So what is the method? Well, the ribs are smoked for around 2 hours until they reach an internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit. Then they get taken off the smoker, they get wrapped in foil with a bit of liquid added to help render the collagen and fat, and held in an oven, pellet grill, holding chest, or some other device that can hold the ribs at a constant 150 degrees Fahrenheit. They get held for 15 hours and then removed from the wrap. They get sauced, put on the smoker for a few minutes to set the sauce, and then they get served. The thing is, this method was basically developed on the back of a napkin, and I just got lucky and it worked really well, but I never really did the testing to find out if this was the optimal way of doing things. So I'm testing 4 different racks of ribs in this video with 2 different finishing temperatures and 2 different times to hold them at 150. Checkity check, 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 check. Okay, I've got 4 racks of ribs here. They're from Tyson. I think that's from the US. I live in Canada, so I usually get maple leaf pork, but I think the stuff from the US is better. Don't tell the Prime Minister. All right, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to rip the membrane off. I always do. I never leave the membrane on because it's disgusting. It has this weird waxy papery taste if you leave it on, and you can't eat it. It's inedible. So I like to take it off. Where are my paper towels? Where's my paper towel? A lot of people will tell you that it's an art form taking off this membrane and that, you know, you'll get better at it over time. But the reality is you just get lucky or you get unlucky. Some of these like to stick to the animal. Sometimes they like to come off really easily. It just all depends on the luck of the draw. So hopefully you guys get an easy one. Like, I can already tell this is gonna be an easy one. Look at that. It's just easily pulling off. Sometimes it's a struggle for every little square inch of this stuff though. All right, these guys are all lined up, and what I'm gonna do now is apply some rub, but this video is all about texture. So the rub that I apply to each one doesn't really matter, which is great for me because it gives me a chance to use one of my million different spices on my spice rack. But I'm gonna use one brand in particular, and that is Sure Shot Sid's. Sure Shot Sid's is a line of different rubs. This one in particular is the original gunpowder seasoning, which I really like for barbecue. So I'm going to use this on one of the ribs. I'll just apply it to this guy right here. Start on the back. Give him a little bit of rubby dub dub. I'm not gonna go too crazy. I mean, if I was doing a competition or, you know, I was serving up these ribs to friends and family and I wanted to really impress them, I might try to be more even on this, or do multiple different rubs on them, or do something crazy like spritz them with Worcestershire sauce or whatever. But these are just gonna have a light layer of rub. So that is the first one. The second one I'm gonna use is the OG, the original Sure Shot Sid's gunpowder seasoning. This has some, I believe, charcoal powder in it, but not very much. And it gives the bark kind of a head start on darkening up, which is why I really like it. I'm gonna start on the bottom first. I'll be consistent. Oh, and look at that. I got some of the rub from this one on this guy. How terrible. Okay, let's put this one on the ribs. And now I'm going to use the smoky bacon gunpowder seasoning. Let's just wait until that gets into focus. The smoky bacon gunpowder seasoning. This one's really interesting, actually. It's got a really bacony sort of taste, as the name would imply, and it goes really good on ribs. I haven't really found another rub that kind of approaches this. The only thing that I found that approaches this is like popcorn seasoning. So I think they got some inspiration from that and added some bacon flavor to it, but this smells and tastes like bacon. Put a little bit of that on. Oh yeah. I'll just move it over here so you guys can actually see it. How about that? And give it a little bit of this rub-a-dub-dub. I'm gonna go pretty heavy on this because I want to see if it makes these ribs taste more porky. Oh man, these are gonna be good. These are gonna be good. And the last rub I'm going to use is the roasted coffee gunpowder rub. This stuff has decaffeinated coffee in it, and it tastes really good, and it darkens up the bark a lot, and it's really sugary, which is great for pork. Okay, I'm gonna start on the back here. It's already looking dark. Ooh. Oh yeah, I can see the sugar. These are gonna taste delicious. Now the ribs are going on Big Beefy Luigi at 250 degrees for approximately 2 hours. At that point, 2 of the ribs hit approximately 145 degrees internal on average, so I removed them and left the remaining 2 on the smoker. The 145 degree ribs then got wrapped in foil with a bit of water added, and then I placed them in my sous vide heating chest at 150 degrees, but you could also use your oven or a toaster oven as long as it goes down to 150. Moving on to the second set of ribs, I let them smoke an additional hour, so 3 hours total, until they hit around 165 degrees internal on average throughout the ribs. Then I wrapped them and placed them in the sous vide holding chest with the other ribs. I'm holding one of the 145 degree ribs and one of the 165 degree ribs for 15 hours at 150, and I'm holding the other set of 145 degree ribs and 165 degree ribs for 18 hours at 150 degrees Fahrenheit. That way I can test the effects of removing them at both 145 versus 165 and the effects of holding them at 150 for 15 hours versus 18 hours. And after 15 hours the next day, I'm removing the first set of 145 and 165 degree ribs to slice into them and taste. Putting on my Pitmaster gloves, baby. Putting on my Pitmaster gloves. Oh, I've got this forced air heater here and I have to wait for like 10 minutes for it to shut off or it sounds like a shit. All right, let's test out the 145 degrees finished ribs that were held in the sous vide holding chest for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15 hours. That's the one I'm looking for. Okay, 15 hours was how long this was held. Pretty decent. It's not feeling as floppy as I normally would like, but maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. Now, normally what I do is I would sauce these up. I would finish them on the smoker for another 30 minutes to tack the sauce up. I might do that a couple times to get a couple layers of tacky sauce. But in this case, as I've said before, this video is just about texture. So all we have on here for flavor is just the rub that I put on. So let's give these guys a slice. Normally I'd be really careful, but actually these are pretty straight ribs, which makes the job of cutting a lot easier. But I'm not gonna be too careful here because I don't even know if I'm gonna feed these to my family, so we'll find out if they're any good. Maybe I will. I'm gonna take one right from the middle. I'll give you guys a look at that. So what do we think? It looks pretty juicy. Go to the other side. It's very tender. I wouldn't say that it's fall off the bone. It's bite through. You can see that bite mark right there, and it came off the bone quite cleanly. So I like this texture, but it could be a little bit more tender. Definitely flavorful, definitely porky, not pot roasty at all. You know what it's like? It's more like the texture of a pork chop, but not as tough as a pork chop. Like a pork chop that is really nicely cooked to 145, but it actually falls off the bone and has a lot of the collagen rendered, so it's really, really nice. I could eat those ribs. I could definitely eat those ribs. Okay, this is the 165 degrees set of ribs that I took all the way up to 165, so they got about an extra hour on the smoker. And you can tell they got an extra hour because they are quite a lot darker than the last set of ribs that we just looked at. So let's cut into these. Ribby. Sometimes these bones get all weird. Where is the bone? Oh my God. Ah. All right, there we go. Take one from the middle. All right, these are quite a bit thicker, so we're gonna have to take that into consideration. They should be a little bit more juicy because they've got more thickness to them, but they look pretty juicy. Squeeze those and a lot of moisture's coming out. Let's have a taste. Mm-hmm. There's a difference. I'll give you guys a look here. Okay, so again, it's bite through, it leaves bite marks. It's a little bit more fall off the bone than the last one, but not by much. The main difference with this rib is that it doesn't taste as porky, as pork choppy as the last one. It's approaching that kind of pot roasty type flavor. I know I use that term a lot, but it's losing its porkiness and its delicious natural flavor. And it's approaching that level where it kind of just tastes like flavorless pork. And that's what I try to avoid by just taking the ribs up to 145. And that seems to work, but these are a little bit more fall off the bone. I could see why some people might like the texture of these a little bit more. It's more of a classic rib type texture where the grains of the meat taste a little bit drier and fall apart a little bit more in your mouth, but still very juicy. I'm gonna taste another one of the 145 degree ribs. I like the ribs that we're taking to 145. They have more flavor, they have more natural pork flavor, and they're juicier. The only difference is they're not as tender as the 165 degree ribs. So what I'm hoping is that the 145 degree ribs that are still in the sous vide holding chest will be a little bit more tender, but they'll still retain the same flavor as these ribs, which is amazing. Oh, that's good. One more of these just for comparison. Yeah, just a little bit more grainy on the 165 degree ribs, a little bit drier. So definitely 100% like the 145 degree ribs a lot more. Oh, these are so tight. Look at these gloves. My wife got me these for Christmas in my stocking. Come on. Oh my God. Okay, these are the second set of ribs that have been resting for 18 hours, and I can already feel just taking them out of the holding chest that they're a lot more tender. So we're gonna open this up and slice into them. Ooh, splashy. Oh. Oh, this is the coffee rub one. Oh yeah. See this, well this isn't bending at all, so that's kind of worrying me. Usually the ribs that I make normally, they bend over like that, so I don't know about this, guys. Give you guys close up. Ooh. It's looking nice. Let's see how it tastes. Maybe it tastes amazing. Maybe it tastes like poop. Okay, I gotta up my rib cutting game here a little bit. Because these ribs are, I think, are these baby backs? Or spares? I can't even tell. Oh my God. Guys, this is why I don't win barbecue competitions. Because I suck at cutting and aesthetics. It's because this stupid little bone is running this way. This cartilage. Okay, there we go. A little bit of chopping action. That's what Daddy wants. Okay, so let's take a look at one of the center ones. Looking pretty decent. It's not super juicy, but let's give it a taste. This is where it's at, guys. Sorry, I didn't show you the bite through marks, but that's okay because I'm gonna eat another one. Yeah. See, nice bite through. Stick my finger in there. Huh? So I was able to bite through without the whole thing coming apart. The rub is amazing too, the Sure Shot Sid's coffee rub. Okay, I gotta stop eating these now, but I could literally eat this whole rack of ribs. This is amazing. It's better than the one that I finished at 145 and then I held for 15 hours. This 18-hour hold is definitely the way to go. I'll have to test it out on a couple more racks of ribs because some are thinner, some are thicker, but this is good. Well, okay, before I say this is the best set of ribs that I've cooked, let's try the 165 finished ribs that were held for 18 hours. We'll see if they're any better. I don't know, I'm not really holding out hope for it because The ones that were finished at 165 and then held for 15 hours were kind of dry. Okay, there you go. Got some smoke. And again, it would look a lot better if it had the sauce and, you know, the extra rub that I put on. It was glazed and everything, but this is a pretty decent set of ribs that looks okay, just coming off the smoker without any extra sauce added. All right, let's get some ribberoonies sliced here. Pretty similar to the last ones. Looking pretty juicy, actually. Oh. You know, I wasn't holding out hope for these, but these are pretty good. So I think we're on to something here, guys. I think the 18-hour hold is the way to go on these ribs, and it's a lot better than the 15-hour hold. Ooh. The reason is there's more collagen breakdown, they're more tender, I can taste the fat is more rendered, and it's just in general more juicy. Yeah, and these taste better than the last rack of 165 ribs that I cooked, which is typical for ribs. They're such a weird cut that's uneven. Some are small, some are large, some have a ton of fat, some have not a lot of fat, some are leaner, some are thicker. So it's kind of just luck of the draw with ribs, but I think that these are better. I think the 18-hour hold is the way to go. Yeah, all these ribs are really amazing. I think the one thing I would say is that would they win a barbecue competition? I don't really know, because a lot of times judges at a barbecue competition expect ribs to kind of almost be fall off the bone. And these are definitely not almost fall off the bone. They're more meaty, but they still pull apart really nicely when you bite into them. And I actually prefer these to the ones that are taken up to 200 degrees plus and braised super long until all the collagen is rendered and they've lost a lot of the pork flavor, which in barbecue competitions is replaced by injections and spices and sauces. These retain a lot of their pork flavor, a lot of their natural juiciness, a lot of the taste of the meat, and they're also meatier when you bite into them. So similar to what I found with briskets, finishing them at a lower temperature, longer hold, avoiding that pot roasty taste, these are kind of similar. It's achieving a more meaty, porky flavor in the ribs that's still really tender, but you're doing it by finishing it at a lower temperature and holding it at a low temperature for a very long time. But I don't think you're going to achieve the super fall apart texture that you do with normal ribs that you foil and you cook all the way up to 200. The only way you might be able to achieve that is maybe if you hold them for 20 hours or 24 hours or 25 hours. I could test that, but that's not reasonable for me at a barbecue competition, and that's kind of what I'm testing for. I want to make really good ribs that are going to be awesome for my family, but also are going to win me some barbecue competitions. So hands down, the 145 degree ribs that were held for 18 hours, so the longer holding time, they were juicier, they were better tasting, so I'll definitely be keeping that exact same method. I think they would be even better if I followed my normal method where I actually sauce them and then set them up with some smoke on the smoker for maybe 15 minutes and then serve them. I just didn't do that in this video because this video is all about texture and not really sauce or even really rub. Although the Sure Shot Sid's rub was really amazing. This method was also very convenient because I could just smoke the ribs kind of the afternoon before and then hold them overnight until lunch or dinner the next day. And I only had really 2 or 3 hours of active cooking time on the Saturday, and then all I had to do on the Sunday is just take them out of the holding chest and basically serve them up. So it seems like a lot of extra work, but as long as you're set up with your holding device to hold it a steady 150, it actually cuts down the active cooking time quite a bit and makes it more convenient. So is this really a new method? Well, it's kind of a twist on smoking and then sous videing ribs. So it's not 100% new, but the difference is you don't need a sous vide device necessarily. You can use a toaster oven, your oven, a pellet grill, which is what I use at barbecue competitions, because you can't use electrically heated devices at barbecue competitions. As long as the device can hold the ribs at 150 degrees internal indefinitely, then it'll work for this method. But I'm interested to hear from you guys. Would you be interested in trying this method? If you do, let me know your results in the comment section below. I'm still tweaking this method. It's very new. Not a lot of people are doing it to my knowledge, so I think it needs to be developed a little bit more. But I'm interested in hearing from you if you decide to try it about whether this method is better or worse than your normal method for ribs, where you take them all the way up to 190 or 200 and wrap them in foil. Let me know in the comment section below. Just make sure when you're holding them that you confirm that the ribs are actually holding at 150. So use a temperature graphing probe like a meter or ThermoWorks Signals or some other sort of probe so that it graphs the temperature over time remotely to your phone, and it shows you and confirms that you're holding at 150. Because 99% of the problems that I hear about when people are holding brisket or other meat for long periods of time and they come out tough or it comes out too tender and fall apart or pot roasty, that's because they were holding it way too high a temperature or way too low a temperature, and they didn't confirm their temperatures throughout the cook. And if you guys are interested in getting more involved in the Smoke Trails barbecue community, check out my Patreon. You'll get private access to a Discord chat server where we are definitely nerding out over barbecue. You can join the Smoke Trails Barbecue Nerds Facebook group, or you can follow me on Instagram, but the easiest way is just to like, subscribe, and comment below. So thanks so much, guys. I'll see you in the next video, and happy smoking.